And it's such a brilliant perspective, and I think you're going to have loads of fun with this. And we're really going to throw loads of paint around like we've done before and be really brave. You could be really funky with your colours if you like. And let's do the quick rules. Quick rules. Rule number one. This is all about having fun. All about having fun and really enjoying what watercolour can do, because it's so exciting watching the water and the paint flow on the page, and it's just about not kind of releasing your inhibitions about watercolour, maybe what you were taught at school, and trying to throw all those bad memories of art classes in the old days. Art classes these days are brilliant fun, but I do remember lots of people say to me, oh, I was told I could never paint, I was told I couldn't draw. And this is just about you going back and trying to reverse that feeling that you've got, and really just letting your hair down, having fun. So that's rule one, have fun. Rule two, lots of lovely clean water. As I always say, lots of clean, oh, that's not very clean, is it? That one, I'll save that one if I'm desperate at the end. Lots of clean water. I've got several jars around me so that I don't have to run away and disappear. And then your lovely brushes, which I say every time, but if you can look after your brushes, avoid leaving them in the water so that the ends bend. Really look after your brushes so you've got a nice point. And today I'm going to be using a number 10, which is quite a big one. I mean, I've got bigger, but I think that's a happy medium size brush as a 10. I'm going to use a teeny tiny one. That's a 00 there for the details around the eye probably, and when we do the whiskers. And then also, if you've got one of these, they're called rigger brushes, really long. You can really hold the brush right on the edge and you can do some lovely flicks of the whiskers at the end if you've got one, but if you haven't, it doesn't matter. Also, the fan brush is quite handy today because we're going to flick some furry bits off the edge of his ears, or her ears. We should be saying her today, shouldn't we? Because I always seem to make them masculine, my characters. Let's make her a feminine Frisian today. I'm guessing she would be, wouldn't she? Oh dear. Yes, she would. To go back to school. Fluffy fan brush if you've got one. If not, any other like big brush with some fluffy ends on we can use to do the ears. Right. Did I do 3 rules then? 3 rules. Have fun. God, I'm really not with it today. Have fun. Clean water, look after your brushes. So shout them back to me. Have fun, clean water, look after your brushes. Okay, I'm going to turn you round. I have to take a sip of my tea and take a breath and wait for a few more people to join in. Wow, 57 people today. I'll say a few hellos. Hi to Lucy, hi to Estelle, hi to Sally with Gemma, hi to Sharon, hi to Ali, hi to Victoria. Oh, lovely cow emoji. Wow. Hi to Joe Joof again, you've got producing some gorgeous artwork with your kids. Hi to Jenny. Yeah, wow, loads of you. So this is de-stress. This is really enjoy yourself. If the results aren't what you wanted, then that's fine. You don't have to show anyone. You can just have another go. Just take it a bit slower. I do tend to talk very fast, paint very fast, and please, if you've got a chance to get on there and shout slow down, do shout slow down, and I will try and slow down. Right, glasses on so I can actually see something. Let me see if I can turn you round without disconnecting. So have a look back out the window again. I think the cow's gone now. Hi to Sarah from Melton Mowbray. Do you need duct tape? No, don't need duct tape. You can masking tape your paper down to a board. That is how I prefer to use the paper on the board. If you don't tape it down, it just means that your paper might buckle a little bit. It just holds it tight. That's just answering a question there. Look, multitasking. Back in. Try and get you in there without disconnecting. Okay, I'm going to try and get a bit closer today so you can actually see the brush strokes going on. Let me see. A bit bouncy, but I think that'll do. So you can get a glimpse of my palette. So I'll try and show you some closer shots if we need them. Okay, what do I say? Less waffle, more painting. Let's sort the microphone out. Can you all hear me loud and clear? You got your reference photograph either on a laptop or printed out. We're going to be trying to look at the photograph as much as possible to really try and capture this amazing face. Hi to Cam, hi to Marie, hi to Susie. Hi to Laura, hi to Naomi. Wow. Right, let's get going, let's get painting. Right, big brush, lovely big brush, lots of clean water. We're going to start, we're going to mix up. Again, we're avoiding black, so we're trying to avoid black in your palette. So if you're lucky enough to have some pans to hand, or if you're using tubes like I am, I'm just using a mixture of everything today. Go for a really, really dark blue. And if you've got a clean area in your palette, we'll mix up that blue. Can you see my palette? That you can just see it, can't you? Mix up an indigo-y dark blue with, I'm trying to slow down, a little bit of red. So we've got a bit of a purple tone going on. Because if you look at those ears, they're not really jet black, are they? They've got those lovely little white fluffy fairy edges as well. And I just think black on a watercolour, the light just seems to sink into it and disappear, and it makes it really dull. So we're just going to go for a really rich, mixing up a really rich dark blue, indigo, whatever you've got in your palette. Just going to tone that down a little bit. Right, okay. So now you've got that mix, you've got a lovely, I'm just going to show you the sort of solution I'm talking about. So, because a lot of people with watercolours go far too dry with their paint. We're looking at something that really runs. Look at that. Can you see that? So it's a good consistency. Now what we're going to do, which is a bit bizarre, I'm going to tell you to take all the paint off your brush. And we're going to start these ears. So my water's already gone blue, so I'm just going to whisk that over there and go for a clean jar. Let's get some just clean fresh water on those ears, because this is just to encourage you to get the paint moving, because we want this painting to be really loose and fresh. So I'm going to try and do both the ears at the same time, so give them the same amount of detail. If you've got a piece of tissue or kitchen roll to hand, just be careful you don't go too far over the whites of those eyelashes. You can pull it back later, but I've just gone right over them. So tissue and kitchen roll is a godsend, because you can just catch the water and mop up any mistakes. I'm just going to take a sip of my tea and slow down, because a few people are joining in and they're not quite ready. So if you've missed the start, Bridget says you've missed the start. So if you've missed the start, it's not a problem, because this video, once it's finished, it goes straight back up onto Facebook, and then I upload it to YouTube once I've edited out all the waffle at the beginning. So you don't, oh mind you might want to see the cow again. Now I probably will leave the waffle in today. It goes up on YouTube. So I would probably say now, if you join in, just watch, and then have a go later if you're not quite ready. But otherwise, the templates and the reference are all on my website on littleredboots.co.uk, but the link should be on my page. Sorry about that, guys, if you're not quite ready, but we're going to get going because my water's going to dry. So we've got some water on those ears, just liven up if it's gone dry, and then go into your rich dark blue, purpley, whatever you've gone for. And if you've got a spare piece of paper to hand and you just want to test what the colour looks like, that's really, really useful to do that. It's quite handy if it's watercolour paper. I haven't got any to hand, but mind. Right, so we're going to go straight in with these ears. So we're going to drop the paint in, and what you're going to do, you're just going to let that paint run and have some really wacky effects with the water that you've already put down. Just let it run in the middle of this ear, and then in the middle of this ear. And can you see how it bleeds out, creating a really natural feathery effect, which looks a little bit like the fur. So that's a first quick wash. I'm going to take it right up to the edge, and then just leave in a few slightly lighter highlights where you think it's a bit more light showing. And while we've got a bit of that gorgeous blue in our palette, I'm just going to try and work around the picture a bit more rather than concentrating too much. I'm going to put some quick washes of water just down here in those dark areas. And I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to get that first wash on down here. Really just let it run, and if it drips down, that's fine. It's about keeping this painting really lively and fresh. So just that first bottom layer of a nice bluey grey. Are we cool? Give it a couple of seconds. And now what I want you to do is, we're mixing up a really similar colour to what you've used just now on those ears, but we want it to be richer, so it needs to be stronger in paint. So same kind of colour, dark blue with a bit of pink, bit of red, bit of brown, and whatever you want to make it just that richer. But this time it's going to have a, well, I might have to let the dog in, otherwise she's going to bark at the door. Just a second. You're coming in. Don't be noisy then, I'll shut you out. Sorry, back again. So richer, stronger, less water. So looking at, let me see if I can show you the palette. A consistency that's more like that than this one. And what you're going to do with the big brush again, going in now into the centre of the ears, just start to drop in. Oh, got hair on under mine. Drop in some darker tones, and then just use the point of your brush and just sort of flick out. This is the inside of the ear, but then just sort of flick out towards the edges, so you get that depth in the ear, and then do the same with the other side. And then if you've got your fan brush to hand, just drop in a few little dark edges there. And then what you can do now, you can use your fan or your rigger or point of any brush, to be honest, just flick out a few little fairy edges just off the edge of those ears, just to get a really natural, slightly wild looking ear. Can you see that? Do a little bit down there as well. Oh, sorry, I keep knocking the tripod. Okay, so I'm going to leave those ears to dry a little bit before we go even darker. So let's have a look at this beautiful fluffy top of his head. So I mean, obviously he's white, but he's not white, is he? And we need to knock that bit back a bit darker on the top of his head, so that his nose really stands out when we do that in a minute. So I'm going to use something like a yellow ochre. To start with, I think. And again, really watery. Just going to put a bit of a wash all over the top of his head here, but leaving some little white patches where the light's catching, and leaving that area just above his nose a bit whiter. Her nose. Why do I do that? So lighter above the eyebrow, giving her a little bit up the top of there. Just bringing that yellowy ochre colour now all down any areas like around his chin, her chin, but leaving those white areas, so you can see where the sun's really gorgeously catching underneath the chin there. Just leave those white areas to show through. Loads of water, just let it flow. You've got a nice base layer there to work with. And now I think what we do, if you've got any pink in your palette, I think I've got some pink somewhere. Where's my pink? Really fresh pink. Let's start to drop in. So I want this to be really loose and fresh. I don't want it to be get too bogged down with this. So let's get some really gorgeous pink all over that nose. Look. And loads of water. Can you see how it really just runs? And then just leave a few little white catches of white areas of the paper. And let that flow, let that run into that area around the nose there. Can bleed right in, that's absolutely fine. Because there's no really crisp lines on this one. And if you've gone too mad in places where you wanted to keep the light, because you really want to try and keep the light around those nostrils. So that's that gorgeous highlight there. So get your tissue paper and just blot out any areas where you've forgotten to leave the light showing. To around both of those areas. And I think, for fun, I'm just going to put a bit of pink here. You don't have to do this, I just need to remember she's a she. I'm just blocking in a few little pinky areas, just little highlights there that will dry. Okay. Oh, and I think actually if you've got some of that yellow ochre still, it needs a little bit down here under that, her chin. Everyone okay? Thumbs up. Oh, you see where I did that pink up there? It's bled right into that ear. But actually, I don't mind that. I'm going to leave that. That's really quite cool. See, if I didn't like it, I could mop it up with the tissue. But I quite like that because it's just like one of those happy accidents. Just keep it away from the eyelashes. I want those to stand out really white. Okay, while your pink's still wet, go back into your palette and find that blue, really watery blue. Well, it's a dark blue, but the watery one. And this will go a bit crazy, so you want your tissue to hand, depending on how wet you did your pink. But just with the tip of your brush, just stop dropping in a suggestion of where that lovely patterning is on her nose, and try and keep it in the shapes. Rather than doing like big sort of squares or circles, try and keep them really irregular and sort of think about the way they curve around into the nostril. And can you see how you get those lovely, beautiful bleed marks, which make it look really natural? And we're obviously going to build these up to go darker, but just start dropping in those now. And I'm going to take it round. Oh, she's looking more like a lady now. And that's actually not a bad shadow colour, so I might actually just start to drop in a few little suggestions of the shadow under the chin there. Again, removing the paint from your brush when you want to, so rather than leave it like a crisp edge like that, remove all the paint from your brush and then just let it blend in with some water. If you use too much water like I have there, you can just mop it up. Try and avoid those harsh lines. God, I really did make a spillage up there, didn't I? Okay, so the ears are still quite wet. I'm going to leave those to dry for a little bit longer. Let's look at building up some shadows and some shape and form on the top of his head. Her head. God, so annoying. Look at her head. And look, and you can see sort of like little peaks and troughs of where her hair is sitting over the top of like the skull. So you need to really be allowing some little white areas to show through, just to show that it's not just one big block. So that's, oh, I wobbled you again. So if we use a bit of the blue with a bit of the yellow ochre again, so we're just mixing up a slightly darker tone of that yellow ochre. And just start looking at laying down a few little areas where you think the fur is a bit darker. Oh, is my mic being noisy? It's probably because I haven't got it around the back of my head. Hang on a minute, sorry. My microphone's not great today. Let's try that. Is that better, Millie? Try and keep still. So just dropping in a few slightly darker areas and cleaning off your brush, and then just bleeding them into that background wash. I think it's catching on my dungarees. Try that. And if it goes a bit too dark and blobby, you can just pull it out again. Right, let's go back into the nose now. I'm sorry, I do flit around all around the painting, but I just want to catch this while it's still wet, but I don't want to work on certain areas while they're dry, and so it's a case of like going, oh, right, I need to go back into there. So go back in with that blue, black, blue, and then just go back into those same areas that you were working in. Oh, mine's dried a little bit. And just start popping in some more of those patterns. If yours have dried like mine have, then that's fine. You can just bleed them out with water, because you want that lovely soft edge on all those marks. So cleaning off your brush and then just blending them out. The more you look at your photographic reference, the more true to the picture you'll be. Keeping those white areas still, those lovely highlights. I'm really trying to look at the curve, so the curve of where the pattern comes around. I know I've said sort of just do your own shapes, but if you can mimic the curve, then you'll get that little area will look more 3D. So I'm just going to blot mine out a little bit. Right, let's just try and bring her to life a little bit with some bolder colours. So let's go straight into those nostrils now. So what we're going to need is your pink, but mixed up with your dark blue. So basically like a really dark purple, but just have some pinky tones in it. But this time, nowhere near as much water, a lot more pigment. Really quite rich, because we're really going in here because we want to get the contrast in this one, and we're going to use this colour quite a bit. So quite a dark purple. And we're going in a lot thicker now. So we're going to go in, let's go into the inside of this nostril, and you'll start to see her come to life. So just dropping in a little bit of colour in each nostril, but because we don't want to completely block it out too dark, again doing the whole thing, removing the paint from your brush, just water, and then just bleed that out with a nice gradient so that it isn't a big solid block. And looping it up. And then drawing a brush line round just to get that to blend. And while you've got that really rich purple mixed up, hey, let's go back into the ears. Let's give them a little bit more definition. So go right into that really dark, because it's all about contrast now. And if you can flick in, we'll do the eyelashes at the end, but if you can flick in right up to those eyelashes with a few little lines, a bit like we did with the puffin, just so you can see where those little white edges come in. Excuse me. And then just get some slightly richer tones in there. And bleeding it out. Everyone okay? So while you've got that lovely rich dark purple, let's have a go and try and put some definition down here. So I'm going to start to really beef up some of these gorgeous patterny areas, and at the same time start to give a bit of definition to her mouth. Use that same colour to just drop in a bit of a shadow just underneath. Kind of try and catch a bit of shadow under that chin. There's a bum chin, as my Ted called it. Your cow's got a bum chin. Thank you. I'm just starting to work around the picture now, just adding in a few darker areas, again with that blue. You can start using some slightly more concentrated brush strokes, stronger colour, just over the top of that where the nostril comes round, and try and paint the strokes as the nostril is, so as it curves rather than going this way or this way, just sort of drawing with the brush really. So to try and make the head really stand forward, I'm going to darken this area a lot like we did with the eyes. What are they called? Ears. We did with the ears. So the same rich, dark, bluey purple, whatever you've come up with in your palette. Just go really brave and block some dark tones in here, because this will just really help the perspective. But just let it drop. Be brave. Loads of water. Just let it do its thing. Because it just want that really natural patterning. And the same on this side. And if you can flick up a little bit, catch some white. Can you see how that just starts to make her head stand proud? Keeping these areas quite loose now because I'm in the background. What colour's your water, guys? Have a look at your water. If you can't see through it, go and change it. Go and get some nice fresh water on there, and I'll have a little wait. Oh, we're out of focus. Oh dear. I'll wait for you for a minute if you want to change your water. I don't know why we're out of focus. Is that better? It should be in focus, I think. Okay. Right, what should we do now? Right, we need to look at trying to get this lip to look like it's curving down, the nose curving down a bit. So depending on how wet your paint is, I don't know what it's going to do on mine actually, let me see, but really light solution of blue just over that area there, just to create like a shadow as it's bending down, and then I'm going to blend it up. It might be that your paint's too wet and it might run. We're going to draw that mouth in a lot more obvious later. So let's build up this hair on her head a little bit. So I'm going to go in with a bit of brown now. Again, just looking at those slightly darker areas up by her eyes. Just giving her some curls on top of her head. How about that? Oh, am I going too fast, guys? Sorry. I know I added a bit of pink. I'm going to add a bit more pink. I don't know whether, you don't have to do this, but I just think she's gone a bit dull on top of her head. So I'm just going to add in a few little pinky areas up here. Just to keep her fresh. Don't be scared of the paint. Just go with the flow. Right. Let's add, sorry, racing ahead. So a little bit more of that yellow ochre again, just to get some colour in, because mine's really, depends on your paper, yours might be very yellow, but mine's already faded right back to nothing. So I just want a few more ochre tones in these areas, so that the white areas I've left will really stand out. Just dropping in a few loose washes over the top. No, I don't want that to happen, so that's run right into the nose there. So my magic tissue, catch it. Just trying to break up some of these hard edges with a few little washy areas. Right. You don't have to do that, it just feels like it's too hard. Okay, let's see if we can have a go at these eyes. We're going to be careful if you've got some really wet areas, but we're going to use the smaller brush now. We're going to bring her to life. Oh, I sounded really Dorset then, didn't I? So, really dark blue, really dark. Quite strong, not too much water, because you want to be able to control this. That's why we're using the smaller brush. Just draw in with the paint now really carefully. If it's too wet and you've got time to go and grab a hairdryer, you can, or wait and do this afterwards. But if you've got too many wet areas, it's going to flow. I think, oh, see, that's gone a bit crazy. That's all right, I can catch it. you've got to really look at that eye and look at where we want to keep some white showing, and it's also got some lovely pink areas in it. So what I'm going to do is going to drop in the dark, strong area there. I'm going to catch this piece here, and I'm going to draw in that strong eyelid just for a start. And then taking the paint all off my brush and using that tiny brush, just going to flick out a few little suggestions of our eyelashes, just where they would catch on the shadow underneath. And then using just water, just try and get a subtle bit of gradient in that eye, and then leaving a nice white reflection. Eyes are tricky. Obviously the bigger you do them, the easier they are, and I might at some point do an eye workshop. We'll see if there is a demand for an eye workshop. But the eyes really do make your subject come alive, well, naturally. So just bringing it down, and we will work on those eyelashes because they will really make her look special. But you can use the tip of your brush just to highlight a few little white areas there, and then we'll go in with a white paint afterwards. Right, so we need a bit of pink in that eye. When's my next live, Naomi? Next live is Friday at 2 o'clock. I think we might be doing a giraffe or possibly a zebra. I'm not sure. I will let you know as soon as I've decided. So the same on this eye. If you need to switch your board around a little bit, like I think I have to because I'm worried about smudging, then you can. See, the difference with painting in real time, see, normally I probably would have gone away and made a cup of tea and come back and let this all dry a little bit. So that darker edge, just catching at the bottom. I hold my breath when I'm painting eyes, so it's quite normally I'm talking now, but and then blending it out and just leaving that lovely white highlight, and then we'll just flick up some shadow where those eyelashes would be coming through. Right, how's she looking? So we're going to keep with the small brush for a minute actually. Let's just go in and make a few more definite lines in a few places. I'm just going to darken up the bottom of that eye a bit more on the top. Let's have a look at this mouth now. So with that small brush, let's just pick up this line. We're trying to avoid making her look too cartoony, but it also needs to be drawn in. And then you can flick up some areas of here where the fur would be coming around the edges. And let's just draw in that mouth line. But then it's not just a solid line, is it? So then I'm just going to do like a watery speckly area, maybe add a bit brown in there. So Sarah says she's come to life now. Have yours all come to life since you get the eyes in? Depends what mood I'm in. Sometimes I do the eyes first, but I quite like the surprise of seeing them, that sense of achievement when suddenly the eyes go in, you go, yes. Just building up a few washes in this area, which is really quite a bit darker because it's it's curving down. mixing up a bit of a dirty browny grey colour just to get a bit more shadow in here. Then I have to go back to a bigger brush now because I'm going to ruin that lovely nice small brush. Just building up. My paint, this paper dries, it soaks the colour in quite easily. It depends what sort of paper you're using as to whether you want to keep adding more layers. You could be getting to the point where you think I'm nearly done with this, to be honest. If you want to leave it really loose and fresh, I'm going to keep going for a bit longer. Just start building up a few more shadows, and I'm going to have a little bit more of a play around the nose. I've left this bit purposely white here, but I'm just going to drop in a few fairy textures. And I think to really make her nose stand out now, we're going to have to exaggerate the darkness behind the, because mine's gone, I don't know whether yours is still white, mine's gone quite muddy. We need to just push this darkness back so that that white stands forward. So depending on what colour you've gone for, I'm going to mix up a bit of a bluey brown and just try and bring that around the nose. And up and under her eye. And we'll use that colour actually for a few little spotty marks there, and blending it in, because that should just make her nose stand prouder. Such a brilliant perspective, this photo. That's one very brave cameraman. Now my eyes just want a little bit of twinkle in them, so I'm going to get a medium-sized brush. I think there's something. I'm just going to put a bit of bright blue in my eyes because I just feel like they've gone a bit dull. So I don't know whether if you've got any blue in your palette, just try and drop a bit of sunshine in them, just to liven them up. And while you've got some blue, just pop a few sunny blue colours in around where those white highlights are. Good time right now, if you haven't already, to stand back and have a look and see how it's looking. See if you've really got that sort of foreshortening of the nose. I'm not sure I've quite achieved it, but I think that some addition of white in a minute will probably help. Let's go a bit darker in some of these spots. Bring her forward. Just going to add a bit more shadow in there. I think that will help. I'm just going to draw that line in again a bit more to get a bit more definition. Just dropping in a few shadows, blending that blue from where it was so that white bit stands out under there. Right, I've left the ears. My ears are really quite plain and boring. I think normally I would add a lot more texture in there, which, to be honest, we could probably do if it's dry enough. You could go in and then just flick out just to try and get a little bit more texture in those ears. Again, like I said before, it really depends on what your final painting to look like. I wanted to try and get most of the detail in the nose and the eyes. Try and get those nostrils to look right. Okay, so if you've got, I know I've said previously about avoiding white, and now avoiding white is like the purest way to paint watercolours, but in this instance, if you've got some white watercolour, or you've got some white gouache, or you've got a white pen, or even white acrylic or whatever, the problem is mine's still quite wet, so I don't know whether it's going to work, but this is where we would really use it to highlight some of those gorgeous whiskers and really bring her to life and sass her up a little bit. She needs some amazing, amazing eyelashes. Now, if your paint's too wet, which I think mine is going to be, it's going to be tricky. So you can either use a rigger, a long flicky brush, or you can use a point of any brush, or you can use a pen. But you want your paint to be quite thick. Now, I don't think I've used this white in here before, so I'm not sure what it's going to go on like. But just flick, really confidently flick out some eyelashes on her, and if it's too wet, like mine start to bleed, you might want to wait and do this afterwards. But I'm just going to show you the idea is that you can flick out and it's only really going to show up on areas where it's slightly darker and behind, obviously, just to bring those whiskers to life. Can you see? Probably going to wait till mine's dry and do some more afterwards. Let me just see if I can get some down there. It's so much about sort of confidence of your stroke. And obviously you could use a pen and do the same thing, but you can see where mine isn't dry, so it's gone like a big blur there. And I'm going to use some white areas just where it's not quite. I'm just going to drop in some white paint just on those highlights where I've kind of gone a bit mad and didn't save the white spaces. I really wanted that to stick out. And again, actually up here, I can't flick that out because it's not dry. And if you didn't save enough white in your eye, you can add a tiny little highlight in the eye if you like. Nobody's going to tell you off because it's not the way to do it. You do it however you want, whatever the results are. It's just about enjoying it and having fun, and you'll find your own style. I'm just going to add a bit more pink in here, just to bring it forward a bit. Whoa, that's a bit mad. Let's tone that down a little bit. Right, someone asked what's the salt for. Well, the salt was, so I quickly threw some salt through it on you last week with the puffin, and it's up to you, you don't have to, but salt is a really cool way of getting texture. So if you wanted to do a funky background on your cow, you lay down your wash. I'm not sure I want to on here, I don't know, shall I? Yeah, let's go for it. It's all about showing you how to do it, isn't it? So let's do, I'll show you the salt technique and I can show you what it does. Right, so we want your big brush. I've lost mine. Big brush. Choose a colour that's going to need to be quite strong for the salt to work, but I'm going to go for a bright pink because it's helping me remind me that she's female. If I can find some pink. Right, I'm just going to be really brave and crazy now. I'm just going to drop in some really bright pink pigment up here, just watching those ears. Actually, this will help when we come to draw the eyelashes out. Just going to drop a bit of pink up here, blend it round, really loose and arty and wacky. It's just about creating a bit of a funky background texture. Just watching, and I think just for the hell of it, let's add a bit around here as well, just to balance her out. So rather than having a big block of colour, if you've got some salt, table salt and sea salt, a selection of both really, in those areas where it's really pooled of paint, if you drop in a sprinkling of your salt in these areas, what the salt does is it repels the paint, and when it's dry you're left with really cool textures rather than just being one block of colour. But you don't have to do this, it's just fun, and it's just a way of showing you another technique. I've lost my brush again. Where is it? Just going to blend that out. And then finishing touches that we like to do with all of these workshops is my well, it's not really trademark because so many watercolourists do them, and I just think it brings the painting to life. So mix up a lovely bright solution, maybe a bright blue, turquoise. I'm going to stick with the pink now, and just flicking with your brush. I want some turquoise now. I've said it. Where's my turquoise? Yeah. Really nice watery solution, and just flicking it over your whole painting, just to liven it up, just to frame it. If it goes all over the body, then I think that's great. If you don't like that, you can cover it up with a piece of paper to stop it. I'm going to have to keep mine flat now because it's gone there. It's going to run. And then what you can do, once it's dry, you can rub out your pencil lines, or you can add your pencil lines in darker. If there's any areas where you think it's probably not quite strong enough, where you feel like you want to outline some areas, I would probably go in with just a normal, like a 2B or HB. What have I got? So I'll try to find one lying around, and just maybe draw in those nostrils a bit bolder. Just flick out a few more. I can't really do it now because it's wet, but flick out a few more of these gorgeous whiskers. Just have fun, just play, just trying to be a bit looser and freer with my work. So you're helping me do that, because obviously I'm talking and painting at the same time. Yeah, standing back and looking at that, I'm just wondering, I might just put some pink under that ear. That's a bit weird that it stops there, so I'm just going to scoop up a bit of pink there. And then when it's dry, I will flick out some more white. So what are you going to call your cow? She's got to have a really, I mean, if you've gone a bit crazy like I have, I think it's got to have quite a glamorous name. I'll have a think about what we should call her. But I hope you've all had a lovely session. It's a little bit wacky for me today. Sorry if there were microphone issues and focusing issues. I thought I was improving, but you know, it's Monday after all. I hope you had a good time. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will be back on Friday at 2 o'clock. And I think, well, maybe a giraffe, maybe a zebra. I'll keep you guessing. And until then, don't forget to sign your work. Hang it on the wall with pride, and I hope you've had fun. And if you can send me, because I'm getting so many, it's amazing, but so many people joining in now. I'm getting lots of lovely photos. If you can send me the pictures via Messenger or via, by the messages, DM me your results. That would be so much easier for me to collate them. But it doesn't matter, as long as I get to see them, and then I can put them in the gallery. That's great. So send me your work. I'd love to see what you've done. You guys are amazing, and I will see you Friday. Thanks for watching.